Hey, it's Anna Powers, and welcome back to episode 3 of the Anti-Generic podcast. I am going to be sharing for you this week my contrarian approach to the three major market forces that we talked about last week. So go back and listen to the previous episode or watch the previous video if you missed it, because I talked about three major forces that are all converging in the marketplace and that are going to affect you and your business moving forward. But just in case you missed it, I'm going to recap those forces really quickly, and then I'll get into my contrarian approaches to how I'm handling and how I suggest that you might think about handling these forces to make sure that your business continues to grow and thrive in 2026 and beyond. So, as a quick recap, the forces are number one, the decline of the institution. So, major institutions like governments, healthcare, and even large companies have lost the trust of the American people. The second force is what I'm calling the marginalization of the middle class. Now, with the advent of accessible AI that almost everyone can use for either free or very, very cheap, white collar workers who traditionally carved out middle to upper middle class lifestyles for themselves and for their families are now being squeezed out of the economy. Blue collar workers are safe for now, but of course, the ultra rich continue to grow their wealth. But for now, the middle class is virtually disappearing. And then the third force is something I'm calling the atrophy of attention. Most of us are spending hours every single day on our phones, and our attention spans continue to shrink with the rise in popularity of short form content. And while it's easier than ever to show up in the marketplace, it's harder than ever to actually stand out, get noticed, and capture revenue. These three forces combined have planted us firmly, or should I say wobbly, in what I'm calling the age of fragmentation. Our traditional socioeconomic structures no longer provide us with the stability that our parents and our grandparents could depend on. It's harder to succeed in the traditional sense, and the onslaught of distractions is making it even more challenging to focus on how we can get ahead at the exact time when we need the most clarity and the most restraint. As a result, many of us have been left wondering, where do I fit in here? Last week, I promised you that I would share the contrarian ways in which I am adapting to these converging forces and why I believe there is still hope and unprecedented opportunity for those who choose to pursue it despite the apparent doom and gloom that accompanies these big societal shifts. So let's talk first about how to handle the erosion of the institution. This one is perhaps the most exciting change that I think we're facing as a society, because as destabilizing as crumbling institutions can be, their downfall actually leaves a void, and it leaves a space for new creation. Now, I believe that every human being was born to be a creator. We are inherently designed to create, whether that's with our hands, our brains, or our hearts. So, my contrarian way of dealing with the collapse of familiar institutions is to ask, how is this happening for me? If I can't rely on a big company to take care of my needs in exchange for giving 40 plus hours per week of my time to grow their mission, how might I be able to build something that takes care of all of my needs in the same way that a company would have years ago, yet requires much less of my time and allows me to build toward my mission? There has never been a better time to create your own container and build a meaningful life doing work that you feel called to. Where most people get stuck is in figuring out what that thing is and how they can get people to pay them for it. And that is where my contrarian approach becomes really vital. And I'm calling it own your perspective, own your market. So own your perspective, own your market. My approach to the collapse of the organizations I used to depend on for stability is to understand at the deepest level my own skill set, gifting, and talents, and to talk about those things with so much authority that I can own the market where I want to stake an economic claim. For example, you might be an equity partner in a law firm worrying about how AI is now capable of doing the vast majority of your job for a pittance compared to the probably astronomical billable hour rates that you charge your clients. Your job is not to pretend like AI doesn't exist or to be angry and upset and worried that it's threatening your livelihood. No, your job is now to become so eloquent in speaking and writing about how you help your clients and in sharing your unique human perspective on the issues that you tackle in your field that your authority in the marketplace is without challenge. The trick here is that this approach requires you to show up boldly. It requires you to show up with certainty. And very importantly, it requires you to show up consistently. There is no more getting by because you've been excelling in your field for 20 plus years. Now, the winners are the ones who do the work with excellence and know how to present your wins to the public over and over and over again. It is not enough to solve a problem anymore. You have to solve it in a way that no one else, including AI, can. And you have to tell people so they know that you solve it in a way that no one else can. The fabulous news is that if you're willing to put in the time and the thought into formulating your unique perspective and staying consistent with sharing it in the marketplace, you will have extraordinary opportunities in this new economy. People are starving for human connection, but they don't want to connect with humans who are parroting what everyone else is saying. They want to share experiences with smart humans who are dedicated to cultivating unique perspectives and owning those perspectives fully, even when, especially when they face adversity. Owning your perspective can look like many different things, and I'm going to continue sharing specific ways that you can do this in future issues of the newsletter and this podcast and my YouTube channel. But to get you started with a few ideas, these are all examples around owning your perspective to own your market. So you could write the seminal book in your industry. You could start a podcast and share your unique thoughts there. You could begin a YouTube channel and post there 3 times a week. You could craft a weekly Substack or Medium post, or you could write a newsletter like I send out to my audience and share it with your audience once per week. And by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast and you want to subscribe to the newsletter, you can do that at sarahannapowers.com/anti-generic. So it's anti-generic and it's sarahannapowers.com/anti-generic. And there's no H in my Sarah. So I always love to give you the option to watch this, listen to it, or read it, whatever your preference is, because I know different people take in information more powerfully via different mediums. It doesn't matter which channel you choose to own your perspective, as much as it matters that you commit to developing your thoughts and sharing them consistently wherever you know it will make the biggest impact in your chosen field. So now let's talk about my somewhat controversial approach to navigating that second force, which is the marginalization of the middle class. I'm calling this approach align and ascend. The reality is that staying in the middle class is no longer a viable option. The reality is that staying in the middle just isn't going to continue to be an option. You will sink down to poverty and you will struggle, or you must choose to elevate yourself to the level of those who are expert at both building and stewarding their wealth. You do have a choice. No one is going to just naturally gravitate and elevate up into wealth without working strategically and diligently to do so in today's market. I personally will never forget how I felt when, after years, like literally almost a decade of having Princeton University as my dream school. I wanted to go to Princeton since I saw Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show, and that's where she had gone, her character had gone. I remember how I felt when I got the huge fat acceptance packet. I was beyond thrilled when I got that huge envelope in the mail. And I will also never forget how absolutely devastated I felt when my parents told me, after they looked at the finances, that they could not afford to send me there and suggested that instead I take a full ride scholarship to a state school. I promised myself that if it were at all within my capacity, my own child, I have a 3-year-old daughter right now, would never spend almost a decade working and then be denied that dream, not because she didn't earn it, because she did, but because the money just wasn't there. So for me, sinking to the bottom is simply not an option. If we must go up or down, and we must, I am choosing to go up. And the reason that I'm calling this contrarian approach align and ascend and not just ascend is that it's imperative that you're not just aiming to make money for money's sake, but that you are instead doing work that is aligned with your skill set, with your gifting, and with your talents. Work that helps your clients and the people you're serving and supporting achieve their biggest goals and dreams too, so that you stay passionate about doing your work even during trying times. I would never want you to be so poor that all you have at the end of your life is a whole bunch of money in the bank. Real wealth comes from cultivating a healthy heart, a soul, and spirit while you do meaningful work that moves other people forward too. And then the money you earn is simply a scorecard of how valuable other people have considered your help and support to be. There is a singer-songwriter named Nick Cave who put it beautifully in issue number 216 of the Red Hand Files that you can find. It's a website. He says, the everyday human gesture is always a heartbeat away from the miraculous. That ultimately we make things happen through our actions, way beyond our understanding or our intention, that our seemingly small, ordinary human acts have untold consequences, that what we do in this world means something, that we are not nothing, and that our most quotidian human actions by their nature burst the seams of our intent and spill meaning fully and radically through time and space, changing everything. So I hope that you're someone who wants to positively impact a lot of lives, and if so, you are in the right place here. One thing I've learned from making multiple millions of dollars in my business is that it matters greatly who you spend your time around. What you read, what you listen to, and who you speak with will all affect, and it will affect dramatically, the trajectory of your life and your business. If you're ready to align and ascend, make sure to seek out people who have big visions, big dreams, big influence, and big wealth. These are the people who will show you what's possible and they will call you up into the highest version of yourself. And my goal is to be one of those people for you as you stay connected each week here via these videos and what I'm sharing with you in anti-generic. So now let's talk about tackling that third force, that third market force, which is what I'm calling the atrophy of attention. That's the final force that we covered in last week's episode. And my strategy for navigating through and beyond this force is what I'm calling the last 5%. It has never been easier to get your voice and your perspective out into the marketplace. There are hundreds of different channels that you could use, and they're almost all either free or very low cost. And now, with AI technology being so accessible, your ability to take your message and distribute it across an enormous number of channels, giving you near universal reach into whatever market you want to reach, is unprecedented. So, why are so many leaders and businesses struggling? Well, my theory is that while it's never been easier to put your voice and perspective out into the marketplace, it's actually never been harder to cut through all the noise. Precisely because it is easy to publish content is why it's so hard for your content to get noticed. And because it's so easy to build a platform now, it's incredibly challenging to build a platform that stands out. To succeed in today's marketplace, you don't just need reach, you need recognition. And you must differentiate yourself, your perspective, and your unique way in which you help your clients get results in order to succeed both now and into the future. It's not enough to publish a lot of content. You need to publish a lot of quality content. And any creator can tell you that publishing a large volume of content is a very different thing from publishing a large volume of high quality content. Your voice has to stand out in your niche. This is the only way that you're going to capture the attention you need. You can't be the guru on the pedestal anymore. People are sick of that. They see straight through it. They don't buy it. They call BS. You have to be both revered, someone who has achieved the results that your own clients and customers want to receive, and you have to be relatable, someone who is authentic and presents your results in a way that they feel achievable to the people looking to hire you. The good news is that there has never been a better time to share your real, honest thoughts. All the parts of you and your work that you've thought are quirky or polarizing or contrarian, those are the ideas that it is vitally important for you to share right now. So now let's talk about the one key to success in today's market because I've covered my three contrarian approaches to each of the major forces, but I want to leave you with one word to remember. That word is being anti-generic. Now is the time to bring your full personality, your complete slate of surprising beliefs, your comprehensive montage of specific stories, and your myriad of unexpected examples of the results your work has achieved into every piece of content you create. You have to bring you to the marketplace. And in order to do that, you have to deeply understand your beliefs and you have to be ready to defend them to the end. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in next week's newsletter because that is much easier said than done. Thought provoking as it may be, it is possible, and there are skills and strategies that I'll be sharing with you when you tune in again next week. And in the meantime, I am always rooting for your success. And listen, if you resonated with one of these three contrarian approaches, I would so appreciate if you would let me know. I read every single email that comes into my email inbox and will continue to do so as long as that's humanly possible, which I foresee it being for a good time yet. So you can always reach me at anna@sarahanapowers.com. Just drop me a note. Let me know you're listening. Let me know what resonated. Let me know your insights and your thoughts about what's happening in the marketplace. And remember, if you're watching this, that I would so love for you to go ahead and subscribe, and that way you'll be notified when future episodes drop. So for now, have an amazing week ahead, and I will talk to you again next week.